Have you ever paused mid-sip and wondered what that familiar glass in your hand is truly costing you? After 40, the body keeps a quieter ledger, and every habit begins to compound with interest. Alcohol has long been woven into celebration, networking, and nightly rituals that signal the end of a demanding day. Yet beneath the glow of social acceptance lies a biological reality that becomes less forgiving with time. As metabolism shifts and cellular repair slows, the same drink that once felt harmless may begin to write a different story inside your tissues. Inspired by the clinical clarity and philosophical depth associated with Dr. Anna Lempsey, this conversation invites you to look beyond comfort and into consequence, not with fear, but with awareness rooted in science and self-respect. When alcohol enters the body, it does not remain the elegant liquid presented in a crystal glass. It is metabolized into acetaldehyde, a reactive compound classified as carcinogenic, capable of binding to DNA and disrupting the intricate processes that allow cells to replicate accurately. In youth, robust enzymatic systems often buffer some of this damage, but after 40, cumulative exposure intersects with age-related decline in detoxification efficiency. The result is prolonged contact between vulnerable tissues and toxic metabolites. Over time, these microscopic insults accumulate, increasing the probability of mutations that can initiate malignancy. The process is not dramatic or immediate, it is incremental, subtle, and silent, unfolding beneath the threshold of sensation. The relationship between alcohol and cancer is dose-dependent, meaning that risk increases with cumulative intake. Even moderate consumption has been associated with elevated rates of breast, colorectal, and liver cancers. For women in particular, alcohol's capacity to raise circulating estrogen levels introduces an additional hormonal dimension. Estrogen-sensitive tissues may respond to this persistent stimulation in ways that heighten vulnerability to malignant transformation. For men and women alike, chronic inflammation and oxidative stress further amplify risk, creating an internal environment where damaged cells are less likely to be repaired and more likely to proliferate. After 40, physiological resilience begins to narrow. Liver function may not be as efficient as it once was, and the body's capacity to neutralize reactive oxygen species diminishes. At the same time, lifestyle stressors, sleep disturbances, and metabolic changes can compound alcohol's impact. What once felt like a manageable indulgence may quietly evolve into a chronic stressor on biological systems already navigating the complexities of midlife. This is not a moral indictment of drinking, it is a recognition that biology changes even when habits do not. The most unsettling aspect is that alcohol-related cancers rarely announce their early stages. There is no immediate pain that signals DNA damage, no obvious alarm that estrogen levels have shifted, no sensation that oxidative stress has intensified. The body absorbs, adapts, and compensates until it cannot. By the time symptoms emerge, the process may have been unfolding for years. That is why awareness matters now, before crisis forces attention. Midlife is not merely a chronological milestone, it is a physiological crossroads. It is the period when accumulated exposures intersect with declining regenerative capacity. In this intersection lies both vulnerability and opportunity. The same decade that heightens risk also offers the chance to recalibrate habits with intention. Alcohol, once examined through the lens of long-term cellular health, ceases to be a neutral companion. It becomes a variable within your control, a lever that can either increase cumulative carcinogenic exposure or reduce it. The choice is rarely dramatic, it is made in ordinary moments, one decision at a time, shaping the trajectory of health in ways that only time fully reveals. At first, the science can feel abstract, almost distant, as though carcinogenesis is a phenomenon reserved for textbooks and laboratories rather than living rooms and dinner tables. Yet the mechanisms linking alcohol to cancer are not theoretical, they are biochemical events unfolding in real time within the body of anyone who drinks. Each exposure initiates a cascade. Ethanol converts to acetaldehyde. Acetaldehyde forms adducts with DNA, and those adducts interfere with accurate replication. When replication errors escape repair, mutations accumulate. Over years, these mutations can activate oncogenes or silence tumor suppressor genes, gradually shifting normal cells toward malignancy. The progression is rarely linear or predictable, but the direction of risk increases as exposure accumulates. The dose-response relationship is one of the most sobering aspects of this reality. Cancer risk does not require extreme drinking to manifest. It rises incrementally with total lifetime consumption, meaning that patterns established in early adulthood continue to echo decades later. A nightly drink may appear moderate, even disciplined, yet consistency amplifies cumulative exposure. The body does not reset to zero each morning, it carries forward the biological consequences of prior days. After 40, when baseline inflammation is often higher and metabolic flexibility reduced, the threshold for harm narrows further. What once required heavier consumption to generate measurable damage may now occur at lower levels. Gender-specific vulnerabilities deepen this complexity. Women generally metabolize alcohol differently due to variations in body composition and enzymatic activity. Lower gastric alcohol dehydrogenase levels can result in higher circulating ethanol concentrations for equivalent intake. Simultaneously, alcohol's capacity to increase estrogen levels intersects with breast tissue biology, elevating the risk of hormone-sensitive cancers. For men, chronic alcohol exposure contributes to liver disease progression, cirrhosis, and hepatocellular carcinoma, while also influencing colorectal cancer risk. These differences are not about blame or weakness, they reflect biological architecture. Understanding them allows for targeted, informed decisions rather than generalized reassurance. There is also the paradox of normalization. Alcohol is embedded in professional networking, family celebrations, and cultural milestones. Refusing a drink can feel socially disruptive, even isolating. The subtle pressure to conform often masks the physiological cost. This is where philosophical clarity becomes essential. The question shifts from whether drinking is socially acceptable to whether it aligns with long-term health priorities. The tension between immediate reward and delayed consequence is central to addictive behaviors. Alcohol stimulates dopamine pathways, reinforcing repetition even as cellular damage accrues invisibly. The brain encodes relief and pleasure, the body records inflammation and DNA disruption. Here is where suspense deepens, because the most significant risk factor may not be any single drink, but the illusion of safety that surrounds moderate use. Many assume that only heavy drinking leads to cancer, yet epidemiological data demonstrate measurable risk even at lower levels. The danger lies in complacency, in believing that absence of obvious dysfunction equals absence of harm. By the time laboratory abnormalities or clinical symptoms appear, carcinogenic processes may have been underway for years. The latency period of cancer creates a psychological gap between cause and effect, making it easy to underestimate risk. Midlife intensifies this dynamic. Hormonal shifts, particularly during perimenopause and andropause, alter metabolic patterns and immune surveillance. The immune system's capacity to identify and eliminate abnormal cells may decline subtly, reducing a critical defense against malignant transformation. When alcohol is layered onto this evolving terrain, it can amplify vulnerabilities that were previously buffered by youthful resilience. The convergence of aging biology and cumulative exposure forms a critical inflection point. Yet within this convergence lies agency. Risk is not destiny, it is probability influenced by behavior. By examining the science without denial or dramatization, midlife adults gain the opportunity to recalibrate before irreversible disease emerges. The question is not whether change is possible, but whether awareness will translate into deliberate action before the silent processes underway demand attention in ways far more difficult to ignore. The turning point in midlife rarely arrives with a dramatic announcement, it emerges as a quiet recognition that time is no longer abstract. Health becomes less about aesthetics and more about longevity, cognition, vitality, and the ability to participate fully in the decades ahead. When viewed through this lens, alcohol is no longer just a beverage, but a modifiable exposure with measurable biological consequences. The empowering truth is that carcinogenic risk linked to alcohol is, to a significant degree, preventable. Unlike genetic mutations inherited at birth, drinking patterns are behaviors shaped by awareness, environment, and intention. The same neuroplasticity that once reinforced habitual consumption can be recruited to establish new norms. Aligned with long-term health, practical risk reduction begins with honest self-assessment. Quantifying weekly intake, identifying triggers, and recognizing patterns of automatic drinking create clarity. Many individuals underestimate their consumption because alcohol is dispersed across social events, dinners, and casual evenings. Tracking intake, even temporarily, exposes cumulative totals that may exceed perceived moderation. From there, incremental adjustments can yield meaningful reductions in exposure. Limiting frequency, decreasing portion size, incorporating alcohol-free days, or choosing complete abstinence are not acts of deprivation. They are strategic decisions to lower cumulative acetaldehyde exposure and reduce chronic inflammation. Evidence consistently demonstrates that reduced intake correlates with reduced cancer risk over time. Equally important is replacing the psychological function alcohol serves. For some, it marks transition from work stress to relaxation. Others, it facilitates social ease or emotional numbing. Addressing these underlying needs through alternative behaviors strengthens sustainability. Exercise modulates dopamine pathways and decreases inflammation. Mindfulness practices recalibrate stress responses and enhance executive control. Meaningful social connection without alcohol challenges the assumption that intoxication is required for intimacy or enjoyment. These substitutions are not superficial swaps, they are neurobehavioral interventions that reshape reward circuitry. Nutrition and metabolic health also intersect with cancer risk. Diets rich in antioxidants, fiber, and phytonutrients support cellular repair mechanisms and mitigate oxidative stress. Adequate sleep enhances immune surveillance, enabling the body to detect and eliminate aberrant cells more effectively. Regular medical screening, including mammography, colonoscopy, and liver function evaluation when indicated, allows for earlier detection of pathology. These measures do not erase prior exposure, but they strengthen resilience moving forward. Midlife is uniquely suited for this recalibration because it combines accumulated wisdom with remaining physiological adaptability. The philosophical dimension cannot be ignored. Choosing to reduce or eliminate alcohol after 40 may challenge identity narratives formed over decades. It may require redefining celebration, coping, and even friendship dynamics. Yet growth often demands discomfort, inspired by clinicians such as Dr. Anna Lempsey, who emphasize the neuroscience of pleasure and pain balance. We recognize that sustainable well-being emerges when short-term rewards do not sabotage long-term health. The brain seeks equilibrium. Excessive stimulation through substances ultimately diminishes baseline satisfaction. Reducing alcohol not only lowers cancer risk but can restore emotional stability, cognitive clarity, and authentic engagement with life. Suspense resolves into responsibility. Here, the silent biological processes described earlier are not accusations, they are information. With information comes choice. Each decision to drink or abstain becomes part of a cumulative trajectory. The body is remarkably responsive to reduce toxic exposure. Inflammation can decline, liver function can improve, and hormonal balance can stabilize when given the opportunity. While no intervention guarantees immunity from cancer, modifying alcohol intake meaningfully shifts probabilities in your favor. Midlife is not a decline, it is a decisive chapter. It is the moment when awareness can transform routine into intention. The question is not whether you deserve pleasure, connection, or relief from stress. You do. The deeper question is whether those needs can be met in ways that honor your future self. Alcohol and cancer risk after 40 are linked by mechanisms grounded in biology, but the trajectory is influenced by behavior grounded in choice. If you are benefiting from our topics, please subscribe, like, and turn on the bell notification so you can see our new videos early.